Good afternoon, gentlemen. Some of you are aware of the heated debates taking place on all social media platforms right now that relate to inclusion, diversity, and transformation. With this message, we wish to express concern that some of our learners are at risk of posting, sharing, commenting on, and liking material that could get them into trouble that they don't anticipate or foresee. I wish to express at the beginning of this address that our core message is, please do not enter into dialogues that are complex and complicated without first getting advice, support, and guidance from your parents, guardians, or other adults in your life who care about you and have your best interests at heart. Our message is not that you shouldn't engage in debates on social media. We ask that you please just do so with the awareness and support of the adults in your life who care about you. We as your school will feel more comfortable knowing that there's a caring adult ensuring that you do not do something that may jeopardize you in any manner. You may of course decide not to agree with the advice they give you, and that is your call to make. We just strongly urge you not to enter these streets on your own. There is no reason to enter into the engagement without tapping into the resources around you. Depending on who you are and what your interests may be, your posts, comments, shares, and likes fall into broad categories. One of the categories that your posts may fall into is that of people who are in support of the movement to fight and expose institutional racism. These are lists and other forms of public shaming that are doing the rounds currently. There are a couple of things that are problematic that could arise from joining in on the public shaming chain. The first and probably most concerning issue is that the sharing of information of minor children. Now, what's a minor child? Legally in our country, it's any child under the age of 18. It is both illegal and extremely dangerous to share the information of minor children. Some of us may feel that someone doesn't deserve to have the human rights that come with being a child protected. However, our law and our society believe that a child's information should be protected at all costs. So there are two general problems here. The first is that you may be opening yourself up to a criminal charge for publishing the personal information of a minor child. The second issue is that doing so has the potential to do irreparable harm to that minor child. That's the first problem. The second problem is that some of us are publishing information we have no personal knowledge of. If something potentially contains information about another person and you don't have personal knowledge of it, we strongly suggest that you consult the adults in your life before posting. One of the risks you may be opening yourself up to is a charge of defamation, amongst other risks. Please take the time to read the summary explaining the defamation that was sent to you by your tutors last week Tuesday. You may fall into the category of people who see the public shaming of individuals and feel that there's something unfair or something wrong with such public shaming. You have the right to weigh in and express your view. We just ask once again that you consult with the adults in your life and ensure that you are not attacking or re-victimizing a group of people who have been and continue to suffer daily institutional violence because of the color of their skin. If you feel compelled to share your view, just get the adults in your life to help you make sure that you don't open yourself up to any social, professional, or legal risk. There is a history and a context behind the movement. Please make sure that you are aware of the context and the history of pain before you post potentially hurtful comments against Black learners who are sharing very personal, painful, and often traumatic lived experiences. It is probably not a good idea to share sentiments that may be perceived to be downplaying, whitewashing, or minimizing their pain. True presence means that you take the time to really listen and really hear what a person who is in pain is saying. You may still feel that what you have to say and what you're seeing on your screen has gone beyond activism and is amounting to something wrong that you feel compelled to comment on. That is fine, and it's your decision to make. Once again, we as your school will feel more comfortable and at peace knowing that you have a caring adult by your side to make sure that your interests, both short-term and long-term, are being fully considered and protected. Being a part of a minority or an oppressed group of people does not absolve us from having to respect the human rights of others. Being part of the majority does not mean that you have less of a right to enjoy your constitutional rights. We all have certain levels of power at different times in our lives. In a school setting, teachers and management certainly have more power than learners. However, as the young activists have noticed, on social media, people can have lots of power to affect the lives and futures of others. Just because you are part of a minority or a less powerful group does not mean that you do not possess power on social media. The reality is that all of us get an unlimited amount of power on social media. Once you appreciate that fact, you also need to appreciate that, like any other person who holds power, you automatically become duty-bound to use that power responsibly. It will not be enough to misuse or abuse your power to cause harm to someone with less power, and then hide behind the fact that you form part of a minority group. If you abuse the power that social media gives you, the world may hold you to account for that abuse of power. And maybe when called, you will be able to provide justification for your actions, and that's fine. Our message again is that you please involve the caring and loving adults in your life to help protect your interests. Do not post or share anything that may be considered to be discriminatory to any group. Do not post anything that may fall into the category of racism as defined by the school's anti-racism policy. I wish to take this time now to remind you of the definition of racism in terms of our policy for your convenience and for your re-education. Racism is any communication or act, whether intentional or unintentional, which insults or disadvantages people on the basis of their real or perceived membership of a race, nationality, ethnicity, ethno-religious group, or which exposes them to hatred, contempt, or ridicule. Racism is systematic and must be understood against the backdrop of South Africa's history of inequality. Racism not only diminishes the humanity of the victim, but also that of the community. You will notice that you will not be able to hide behind the excuse of, "It was not intentional, I didn't mean it." Whether you intended to offend a group or not is not relevant. As long as your conduct fits the definition, you will be found guilty of an act of racism. So please, take the time to educate yourself in the meantime and avoid using words that can have the effect of insulting or undermining any group. Think before you post, and more importantly, consult, preferably with your parents, before you post. We wish to remind you of the ongoing Finding Our Voice Youth Day program that is currently running at the school. Be encouraged to do the work of educating yourself about the privilege born out of past and present injustice. Take note that this is a time when we know that when we say Black Lives Matter, we are not saying that others don't, but rather we do it to highlight the obvious pain and hurt that comes from centuries of systematic discrimination. I wish you well as you navigate this stage of your lives and find a place and a voice for yourself in this complex world. Please feel free to reach out to me, any member of the Inclusion, Diversity and Transformation Committee, including your learner reps, Mr. Bauer, your housemasters and tutors, the headmaster, or any other teacher you feel comfortable talking to if you have any further questions, concerns, or disagreements. The IDT is a safe space to voice your concerns and frustrations without fear of judgment, embarrassment, or victimization. Thank you.